Get ready.
Hi, I'm Kaz Riley, and this is Hypnosis 247 Live, and Trancing in the Sheets with me today is none other than Mr. Freddy Jacquin. Freddy is Hypnosis's own archer. He is an author, an international trainer, one of the most genuinely talented hypnotists I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and working with. So welcome, Freddy, and thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks for asking me, especially as I'm your first, as it says in the sheets. So,
absolutely.
I think it's a first for me as well.
So just before we start our conversation today, we'd just like to send out gratitude to Hypnothoughts Live that are actually sponsoring this video today. We both have great history with Hypnothoughts, don't we? And a lot to be thankful for. So tell me, what's your view on Hypnothoughts, Freddie?
It'll be another first for us as well, because we've been running our course there this year together.
We will. So
yeah, it's going to be excellent. I think Hypnothoughts are great. They're the best conference in the world, the biggest conference in the world. And I went there last year, fully expecting that no one would know me. And I had a room full of people, so that was an excellent experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just something there for everybody, isn't there? It is the best hypnosis conference on the planet. There is just no doubt about it.
As you say, there's something for everyone there.
Absolutely. So anybody wanting to go to Hypnothoughts, it's www.htlive.net, and everything that you need there. There's also a Facebook group where you can find everything that you need. And get your ticket booked and your plane ticket to Vegas ASAP. So, Freddie, we've got lots and lots that we can talk about, but what we decided to speak about in our show today was really about the work that you do with regards to really releasing people from many kinds of limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the most important part of my job. I always think of the bottom line for me is to help my clients understand their own worth, their own value. And the most things that underpin the lack of that ability is limiting beliefs. And my things are that most of our limiting beliefs, not all of our limiting beliefs, because I don't believe we come into the world with limiting beliefs. I think all of our limiting beliefs are other people's opinions in general that are placed on us, you know, and because we're children, because they're adults, so someone says, you know, you're an academic, but you're not very good at sport, or you're a sporty kid, but you're not very good academic. We look at them, we say, well, they're an adult, I'm a child, that must be true. And so once we understand that we can let go of those limiting beliefs, because that's what they are. And beliefs for me are like soapbox. You know, we can decide what we want to believe. That's the strange thing about it. Nothing really exists outside of our skull except as perception. You know, and so once we understand that, for me, it's very simple now. If the question I ask myself is, does this belief enhance my life, or is it limit my life? And if it's limiting my life, I can choose to believe something else. But most people don't understand that. And they think this is just the way it is. And you and I both know, with the use of hypnosis, we can get to, for one of a better way of describing, that underlying negative programming that keeps us in that limiting state of mind. You know, and once those beliefs are changed, then our lives change. And people say, does it take a long time, or does it last? You and I both know sometimes we just change our mind about something. We can be crazily in love with someone. They say something, they do something, all of a sudden you can't look at them in the same way, you can't feel the same way. And it happens in a moment sometimes. So beliefs are like that. And once we understand that we can have control over those limitations, those negative thoughts, the limiting beliefs, not only can we enhance our own life, but we can enhance the people whose lives we get the opportunity to help.
Absolutely. I think as well, isn't it, is that you know, people don't even realize quite often that it's their belief system, you know, that is actually the issue. You know, they'll often come in with, you know, and they'll say they're anxious, won't they? And not realize that their anxieties may be caused by a belief system that's actually limiting the way that they live, or actually they're very familiar with. So they're within that comfort zone, aren't they? And the thing about comfort zones is nothing ever grows within them, isn't it? So they, you know, it's often helping them even just realize that they're in that limited place, isn't it?
Yeah, by finding something in their life that proves their own worth and their own value. Because a lot of people come and see you and I with problems like drug problems, habitual problems, things that are destroying them. You know, and you're not going to look after yourself if you don't believe that you're worth looking after. So as I said at the beginning of this interview, for me, the bottom line is I want my client, no matter what else, I want them going out with a new understanding about their worth and their value, because they're then going to look after themselves. And most of those things are, as we were saying earlier, limiting beliefs we have about ourselves. And sometimes, and I know from my own point, you know, as a young man, maybe in my late teens, early 20s, I had a voice in my head if I wanted to do something, which used to say, Freddie, you'll never do it. You're not any good. Why bother? You know, all those things that we say to ourselves. And then one day I took the time to listen to whose voice that was. And it wasn't my voice. And I won't say whose voice it was, but it was a voice that I'd had throughout my life. And it was in that same voice. And I listened to it. But I also realised that I had another voice in my head, my mum's voice, who believed I could do anything. You know, that believed I was beautiful, all those things that mums believe about their sons. And so in my own head, and this was long before I started doing hypnosis, I went in and I pictured one of those old radios, you'll be too young to remember them, the wooden case radios with the knobs and the valves in the back and stuff. And it had 2 volume settings on it. And one had one person's voice under it and the other had my mum's voice under it. And I realised I could turn one voice right down. I could turn my mum's voice right up. I'm sure that other voice is still there saying, but I can't hear it.
Doesn't matter if you can't hear it, it can't hurt you.
So sometimes it's as simple as just listening to the voice in your head and realizing that it's not always your voice. So those limiting beliefs, there's lots of different techniques, but very simple and easy to use. And I, you know, when we run our course together, that's one of the things I want to be working on, is helping people let go of those limiting beliefs that have been placed on them about their worth, about their value, about what they should or shouldn't feel, which is a big thing. You know, I'm sure you have the same thing with your clients. Most of our anxieties and stresses are worrying about what other people think.
Well, it's the thing. I mean, it's to the point, actually, I know within my own life, I've seen so many clients walk through the door of this office where they've had that worry of what other people think, that I actually came to the personal conclusion that nobody can possibly be thinking anything about me because they're far too busy worrying about what I'm thinking about them. And I've never worried about what other people think of me since I reached that point. But it's true, isn't it? Nobody is actually thinking about anything what other people
think. No, most people are caught up so much in their own stuff.
Absolutely.
I had a girl come to see me once, and at one point, she'd given out on a heavy night, and the next day she took her kids to school, and she thought that maybe other people thought she was drunk, to the point where she couldn't take her kids to school. She thought everyone's talking about her, you know, and this was weeks on. I said they're not even worrying about what happened 2 hours ago. They've got their own stuff to worry about. They're not thinking, oh, there's that girl that looked like she was drunk one morning. I said, they're not thinking it. But you know, and I often have this with people where they say, well, you know, I'd like to ask someone out, but they'll think I'm stupid. They'll think I'm this, I'm that. And I say to them, are you Darren Brown? They say, no. I said, well, how do you know what people are thinking? You know, even Darren Brown doesn't really know what people are thinking.
Well, this is it, isn't it?
Our life with this, you know, he said she must be saying this, they must be thinking that. You know, in reality, once you can drop that, once you can get over that and not worry what people think, then your life changes. You know, people often say to me, you know, you're really confident when you're on stage and when you're presenting, you're really confident. It's not that I'm really confident. It's that I get out and I do my best, and I'm worried what other people think. Now, people are going to think what they're going to think. Some are going to get me, some aren't going to get me, some don't give two monkeys. But either way, you know, I'm going to get up, I'm going to hopefully enhance some of those people's lives. If I was to worry, which I probably did much in a younger life, you know, what people were thinking about me, you present differently. You know, I walk into every presentation now and I run this loop in my head. You know, they're all going to be friendlies. You know, they're going to love what I've got to say, and we're going to have a great time together. And that tends to be what happens. But for most people that go to do public speaking, you know, they're running the worst case scenarios in their head. And that tends to happen as well. So, you know, it's, once you get rid of these limitations and negative thoughts, as I said, most of them aren't even ours, they've been placed on us. Once you understand that, you can go off and just choose. Imagine how quickly we could change our lives if we just choose, if we can believe that we can just choose what we believe. Does this belief that's holding me back, is it enhancing me or is it holding me back? It's holding back, so I choose to believe something else. You know, I've been saying this for a long time now. Nothing exists outside of your skull except as perception.
And that, absolutely. And it's one of those things, isn't it, in terms of things like relationships and how people interact with each other, isn't it? You know, the way that people often see themselves as being perceived, or actually more accurately, the way they fear themselves as being perceived, which is the key thing, isn't it? Yeah. Is that, but most of that fear is completely internal to the person that's kind of has that worry. As you say, it's inside their own skull, isn't it? It's not actually what's out there.
Yeah, we live in a society, and there's certain kinds of rules we have to, well, we don't have to, but we tend to live by. And part of that is, you know, how do people perceive what I'm doing? But that perception, as I said to you, it's only in your head. And when we look in the mirror, we tend to see everything that's wrong with us. That's not how other people perceive us in general. You know, but when we look in the mirror, we see everything that's wrong with us. And it's the same when we're thinking about what people are thinking about us. You know, once we drop that, once we accept that, you know,
I'm so sorry, Freddie. There's such a racket going on outside my office, outside the hypnotist office. So if we can hear that on this recording, we're just going to go with it because, you know, I just go with the flow. It's all a bit of a mess. So sorry to interrupt you, but if people can hear that,
it might be my end. My office is next to a pizza house, and they're warming their machines up at this time of the day. But I can't hear it at your end, so
okay. It may be picked up on my microphone when it comes through, but you know, it's so be it. It's all part of the journey, isn't it? Noisy people outside offices being blasted over the internet. Why not? They don't know it, but they're probably famous now.
There's a lovely line that I use if I'm hypnotizing in a noisy environment, and I think it's going to affect the person, and you're just going to learn it, and so are the people listening to this. You know, this is so people are listening to this, you know, you're going to get this, and any noise, peripheral noise, is not going to bother you. So just a suggestion. I'm just a hypnotist, but this is the line. It's fantastic. Not moving and not speaking makes it easier to not listen to anything other than the sound of my voice. So there you go.
There we go. There we go. Although it's very easy to get hooked on your voice, I have to say, Freddie. It's very hypnotic voices. So
I'll look forward to when we're working together. You just standing like that.
Yeah.
In trance for the 2 years.
We'll have to have a trance off and see.
Oh yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
Which again would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? But going back to those kind of limiting beliefs, you know, that the fear of what other people think. And I guess this is the thing as well with that, it's the fear of judgment. It's the fear of being judged negatively, isn't it? And also the fear of, other than the need sometimes, I think, to fall into line and to be like everybody else, rather than having the courage to be different sometimes, for people to be their authentic selves, isn't it? It's back to those they should be, or how they could be, or you know, the would, shoulds, coulds of this world.
It's an acceptance of who you are.
Yeah.
Because obviously none of us are perfect. I'm damn close, but I'm not actually there yet.
Well, you know.
But you know, it's an acceptance. You know that we have our flaws, we have our own ways. You know, I always say to people when they say, "Oh, you're having such a great life," and you know, I see you traveling. I say that's a Facebook profile.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my real life. You know, and we can have these. You know, especially with all this new technology now, it's great. But we know who we are, and that's okay if we just accept it and say, "Look, my feelings." This is what we're talking about on our course as well. My feelings are my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to execute those feelings, but I can accept that they are my feelings, and it is who I am. You know, and so instead of beating ourselves up over it, I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be thinking that. You know, which most of us do. You know, because we've a structure of society around us that says we should think and feel like this. Most of us don't think like that. You know, we have our own thoughts, our own feelings, you know, our own passions, but we're not living it half the time because of that belief that we're going to be judged.
Absolutely.
Acceptance of who we are is a great thing. It's hard to get, you know, because we are, like you say, we are being judged. People judge us by our transport. That's what I say. You know, I always say that, like, people look at how you are physically, and they judge you by that. Before you can open your mouth, you know, it's just transport as far as I'm concerned. But people judge you by it.
Okay, yeah, well, this is true, and I know, and often we find the people maybe that we've judged, and then we realise that we've misjudged them. You know, we do make snap decisions about people, don't we? And then
I try not to now.
I try not to, but I think, you know, in life humans tend to do that, and then often realise that their initial snap decision wasn't always right, and sometimes that's a negative thing, and sometimes that's a positive thing, isn't it? You know, it's that, you know, but that's some of the beliefs, I guess, that we're sometimes limited by. We tend to judge others, or people tend to judge others by their own belief system, don't they? So when we see something different, or people see something different, often they're quite intimidated by that, and that's another reason why I think people want to have a need to fit in sometimes, rather than embracing their true, authentic selves.
Yeah, I mean, my son Anthony and I were out in India a couple of weeks, running some training courses out there. So Anthony was actually learning Hindi, and I thought I'd have a go. I only got to the first word, which was namaste, which means, well, I don't know what it means. I didn't know what it means, but someone told me, yeah, it's a greeting, namaste. And someone told me it means...
It's beautiful, the greeting, actually, Freddie. It's the divine in me bows to the divine in you, I believe, namaste. So there you go.
Is it? Yeah. Well, what I was told, and I like it, I'm going to stick with it because I think it works for me, is I recognise the God within you. That's what someone said it means. But I'm not a religious person. You know, I don't believe there's a big man up there with a white beard, personally. That's just my belief.
That's fair enough.
So I've changed that in my own head. So I recognise the good within you. And when we were doing the training out in India, and I said we're going to be working with each other and practicing these techniques, I said I want you to take 2 or 3 seconds just to look at your client, look them in the eye, and just wait till you can recognise the good within them. And quite literally, we had people when they were doing this getting so emotional about that, because we never really take the time to actually look beyond the physical, you know, to look within that person, just by taking a couple of seconds to do that. And I believe that makes a difference in how we communicate. So yeah, you know, people do make judgments. If you take the time out to look beyond, just a little time, I think it makes a massive difference. So limiting beliefs, we have all the tools we need, don't we, in hypnosis? You know, we can run the fast phobia cure to eliminate any irrational fears and phobias. But you can use the same technique for eliminating limiting beliefs and negative thoughts. The arrow technique, which I developed for pain. You know, people are using that all around the world now for using it to put limiting beliefs and negative thoughts in the bullseye and eliminating it. So we have some fantastic tools, you know, and enhancing our own beliefs and getting that feeling up, knowing you're a good enough person, You know, it's an important thing for me to help my clients do. And as I said, sometimes once the belief's changed, it can't go back. You know, as you know, and I don't know if you still run smoking cessation things. I'm not sure you do or not, but I still run them. And but there's 3 beliefs to crack. I'm not going to go through it all and tell you what they are. But the most common one is I can't quit. You know, the people come in, I've tried the patches, I've tried the gums, I've tried this, I've tried that. I can't quit. That's their belief when they walk in the door. And I ask them a simple question. I ask who their most important person is in their life. If they've got a child or a partner, it's a bit sort of a sneaky way to crack this belief, but I just say to them, you know, if you'd been to your doctor yesterday and he said, have another cigarette, you die, I say the chance you quit are minimal. And everyone nods because they know that they've been to the doctors, they've been told that, you know, it's going to do all kinds of things to them health-wise. They know that, so they nod. And I ask the question this way, I say, now, if you'd been to your doctor yesterday and he said, have another cigarette and your son would die, you'd quit, would you not? And they go, yes. I say, have you got any doubt? They go, no. If my son's life depended upon it, my wife's life depended upon it, I'd quit. In that moment, you've totally undermined that belief they can't do it. They still go out and smoke, but they can no longer believe they can't quit. And then you point out at some point later on in that chat you're having that their boy's life does depend upon them quitting. Their wife's life depends upon them quitting. And it's very easy to undermine that belief. So most of the things that hold us are limiting beliefs, and they're not even ours. So we have great tools to deal with it. And I love helping people crack those beliefs. So I put a little thing out the other day with a picture of a bubble saying, you know, limiting beliefs are like soap bubbles, and I have a pin to pop them. And my goal is to pop as many of those beliefs as possible. But we can all, and anyone listening to this can do it from today, listen to their own voice in their head. One, listen to whose voice it is, chances are it won't be theirs. And then ask the question, is this belief enhancing me or holding me back? And the understanding, you can just decide to choose to believe something else. Now, just think how simple our life is. If we can just say, "What is this belief any good or not?" And if it's not, I'll choose to believe something else. Choose to believe something else about yourself. It's that simple for me. That's it.
We're sadly out of time, but I think that's a great point to end on, isn't it?
I was your first. I feel honoured.
Well, it's my absolute honour to have you chancing in the sheets with me, Freddie. And as you know, I
hope I haven't left any crumbs.
Well, for the next person. Thank you so much. You know, I'm a huge fan of your work and a huge fan of you. And you know, thank you so much for speaking to us about limiting beliefs and all the wonderful work that you do.
It's been my joy to do it. It's been great.
All right.
Thanks again.
And thanks everybody for watching the first episode of Trancing in the Sheets. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Get ready.